This is 10 Tampa Bay Storm Recovery. Ask the experts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of 10 Tampa Bay Storm Recovery. I'm Java Ingram, and we're here to get you the help you need.
And I'm Janelle Martinez, and now is the time to ask the experts. We are taking your questions to a team of local experts. We want to try to help you get through this tough time. So many people in our Tampa Bay community lost everything, and there are so many ways that we can help them, and we're going to try to do that for you today. A lot of questions that need to be answered. How do you restore your home? How do you restore your property? When will FEMA step in and help? How do you get rid of those trees and limbs around your home? What will this do to insurance? These are just a few of the questions we've already seen, so we have a panel of experts for the next hour to try to get those answers for you.
That's right. So I'm going to introduce you to our experts. So we have Jack over here from FEMA. We have Darren, president of Paul Davis Property Restoration in Tampa, right here. We also have Jake from HH Insurance. Welcome to the show. We have Abby from the city of Tampa. She is the interim administrator of development and economic opportunity. Thanks for being here. We have Pete here from Pete and Ron's Tree Service. We have Nelson here from Truly Nolan. Good to see you. And then we have Michael right here from Cool Today. Thank you all for joining us. We know this is a busy time for all of you, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, so there's no real simple place to start, but we've been asking you for the last 2 days to send us your questions, and a lot of questions have come in asking about FEMA. So Jack, we're going to start with you. So let's just start. For a lot of people, this is their first time being in a disaster type situation. So kind of explain what FEMA is and how it can help people.
Well, FEMA is the emergency management agency, and it's there to help you in times of crisis, just like today. Mm-hmm. So what you need to do is, if you want assistance, you have to document. I tell that every day: document, document, document. So you've had damage, take the documentation, and there's 3 places you can go. You can go to the 800 number, 800-621-FEMA, or 800-621-3362. Or if you like the internet, you can go to the internet. It's disasterassistance.gov. Or the best one I suggest, go to a disaster recovery center, and they're around the area. Walk in and talk to someone in person, because as you know, to make things happen, sometimes you need someone to talk to about it. So those are the 3 places. But remember, you have to document. You have to document your tragedy. And I come from the school, take triumph from tragedy.
I know, and you've been seeing a lot lately.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I have a question for you as well. So you were just here for Debbie, and then you stayed for this. If there's someone who's waiting for a grant from Debbie, do they have to come to you again and go through that process of documenting and submitting again for Helene?
No, they have to document. If they had damage for Debbie, that's separate. If they had damage for Hurricane Helene, they have to start the process all over again.
Okay, so they do need to do 2 separate things for that.
They do need to, and they can't mix.
Okay.
This is very crucial. You know, some people will say, "Oh, I had damage from Debbie. Now I have damage from Helene. I can just put them all together." No, they have to be separate.
Okay.
Okay. All right, do we want to move on to our next guest?
Actually,
okay.
One more question. We have a question from a viewer in Tampa. Thanks for sending this in. They said, can a renter get help from FEMA?
Absolutely. Any type of damage.
Okay.
You're a renter, you have no money, you need a place to stay, lodging, FEMA will give you lodging money.
Okay.
You're unemployed from the disaster. Governor DeSantis is very big on unemployment disaster assistance. Apply.
Okay.
Again, apply.
Yeah.
Because we understand tragedy has happened. We don't want you to feel like you're left out. And you're tax-paying dollars. Why do you pay taxes? This is one reason why.
Okay. We appreciate your insight. Let's move on to Darren here. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
So Paul Davis Restoration is an international franchise network. Independently owned franchises. We specialize in emergency property restoration. So we do hurricane disaster response, as well as fires, floods, mold, etc. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because right now we've seen all over the area. People have, cut their drywall. They're trying to prevent mold. Can we talk a little bit about that mold? If someone hasn't done that yet, it's now almost a week since the storm. Is it too late? What should we do?
So yeah, mold typically takes about 72 hours to start growing if it's not dealt with immediately. And in this type of situation with the storm surge water, it's considered black water or category 3, so it needs to be anything that water touches needs to be removed and discarded, with the exception of hard furniture that could be cleaned. But for the most part, mold is going to start growing if you don't get the stuff out.
Yeah. I know we have a question from a viewer who wants to know if they need to get some kind of mold expert in to look for mold before they start to rebuild.
Yes, great question. Mold is, if it lays dormant, if you don't disrupt it, it's not fine, but it's when you start tearing into things that have visible mold on it, and the spores can get in the air. So I would certainly call a professional mold remediator, a licensed mold remediator, to handle that and not tackle that yourself.
And that would be before you put that drywall back up, obviously.
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay.
So the process, what we're dealing with, is really initially, demolish any materials that are wet from the storm surge water. We do a thorough cleaning and sanitizing of the interior of the stud walls, the concrete, using a biocide solution, and then we dry it. Using dehumidification and fans. And then at that point, once it's dry, it's ready to put the drywall back.
So you mentioned fans. We got another question from a viewer whose daughter and her daughter's husband lost everything in their home, like so many in our area. She said, our family has been a huge help moving furniture out, but they can't get the electricity back on, or it hasn't come back on yet. So they said, how do they avoid getting mold without fans or electricity?
Well, great question, and first of all, I'm very sorry to everyone who's been affected by the storm, which are thousands. But if you get the wet materials out and do some cleaning, there's products available that you can actually get at Home Depot. Shockwave is one of them. Benefact is another. It's a biocide. If you do the cleaning on your own, you can buy one of those sprayers and follow the instructions on the manufacturer's recommendations. But you can spray it, you can clean it. If you don't have drying equipment or can't get a hold of drying equipment from local equipment rental company like Sunbelt or Paul Davis or whoever, you've done the bulk of the work, and it's not as important to dry it at that point because you've removed the wet materials, but it does need to be done at some point.
Okay, good to know. Very helpful advice.
We have many more questions for both of you, but we're going to move on now because I know a lot of people have insurance questions, and that's where you come in, Jake. And I won't make the joke that we made earlier about Jake, the insurance guy. But kind of talk about what you need to do before that adjuster comes to your house.
Yeah, I mean, really, the adjuster's there to help you, right? They're there to come out and try to help get your claim paid. I think the big thing would be document everything. So before you start ripping anything out, take pictures of it. Hopefully you took a video or pictures of your house before the loss that you can compare it to. If you've looked at your house already, you've probably already seen that water line is starting to go away. Sharpie it on the wall. Really show where that water line was. Take pictures of it compared to other objects so that when your adjuster does come out, they're able to see it, because as much as we want the adjuster to be out tomorrow, it might be up to 2 or 3 weeks before they're there, and a lot can change in the house over that time period. So just the more documentation you can do before that adjuster gets there, the better that adjuster can do to assist you.
Okay, so we have a viewer question from Doug in Tampa, who is a renter and wants to know, he had the typical renter's insurance and it doesn't cover flood. Is there anything that can protect a renter from flood in the future? No.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one we get from a lot of condo owners as well. Yeah. And so in a standard policy, there's a flat flood exclusion. So there's no flood coverage. You can buy a contents only flood policy. The challenge most people have with it is it's very expensive. It covers very little. And probably the biggest thing that we're seeing from a claim standpoint from that would be additional living expenses, going and getting a hotel and living elsewhere. anywhere, and no FEMA and really no private market flood policy covers additional living expenses either. And so yes, it is available, but is it available to the extent that most people want or need? Probably not.
Okay, I do have a question for you from another viewer. They said, I just learned that there are public adjusters. My insurance company has me meeting with an insurance adjuster, but I reached out to a public adjuster also. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that when we look at an event like this, right, it's probably that a lot of people are going to get their full $250,000 policy limit. And so when you work with a public adjuster, you give away 10% of your claim. And so if you're going to get $250,000 plus then your contents coverage, and let's say you have $100,000 there, that's $350,000. So you might be giving away $35,000 of your claim. Now, I will say that there are certain times when that could be a good idea if you're too busy to file your own claim. If you feel that the insurance company's adjuster isn't doing the right job for you or anything along those lines, that's really when a public adjuster can be used by a viewer. But what I would recommend is start with your insurance company's adjuster. If you're able to work with them, keep the money because most people need as much as they can get right now.
Okay, I know a lot of people have questions about garages, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier. If a garage is a garage covered, I know typically it's not if it's lower than the house. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So it's a common question we're getting is garages and pools this week.
Yeah.
And so if you're in an elevated house, so you've got your garage as your first floor, you live on the second, maybe third floor, any contents or finish work that you had in your garage is not covered by a standard flood insurance policy. So that becomes a self-insured item on there. And then typically any pools or pool pump damage and cleanup to the pool is also a self-insured item within the standard FEMA flood policy.
Okay, quick question for FEMA. Should we then apply for FEMA? Or was that be covered, or should we?
You should always apply.
Okay.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, you have nothing to lose. And if you get a turn down, you appeal it.
Okay.
I tell people appeal it. We're here to help you. Sometimes the paperwork doesn't get to the right place. Put your paperwork in.
Okay, got it. Thank
Okay, we're going to move on to Miss Abby here in the back. She's with the City of Tampa. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I am the interim administrator for development and economic opportunity. I actually oversee the permitting and inspections department, the zoning department, the convention center, our community redevelopment agencies, and our housing and community development division. So I have a large workforce under me, a large team that's mostly related to the land development of this city.
Okay, well, I want to talk to you because I understand the City of Tampa has pop-up permit centers to assist residents and contractors. Where are those centers, I should say, and how long will they be there?
Yes, we did. We decided Sunday, a couple of us talking through how we could best serve our residents was let's put together some pop-up permit centers. They are located at DeSoto Park in Palmetto Beach, Marjorie Park on Davis Island, and this morning we just opened a third that is down on Oklahoma Avenue south of Gandy at the Gandy Civic Association's clubhouse that is there. Okay. We're there from 7 to 7. There are also comfort stations that are available we've partnered with, so you don't have to go to more than one place. Everything you need is right there. And we're helping with actually issuing same-day permits. We have issued AC changeouts. We've issued electrical trade permits. We are able to help residents if they come in and they're like, I've suffered this damage. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We could talk through what permits they might need, what they would not need permits for.
Right.
And then sometimes what we're seeing is they'll go back to their homes, they'll look at some things, and then they'll come back to us the next day and say, okay, I'm now ready to proceed.
Sure.
But we're seeing that there's a lot of people who are just still working through the shock of what has happened and in terms of their homes and what their next steps are going to be.
Sure. Well, I want to talk in a little bit more detail about what requires a permit and what does not. Can you talk about what does require a permit first?
I think it's easier to talk about what doesn't.
Well, let's do it.
If you have a roof area that's been damaged less than 500 square feet and you're just patching your roof or repairing, then you would not need a permit. If you're changing out your flooring, cabinets, countertops, your cabinets have been damaged, you would not need a permit. Like for like, your doors. If your front door experienced water damage and is bowing, as long as it's just the door and not the frame, you could go to Home Depot, get a new door. You would not need a permit. And then really what a lot of what we're talking about today is drywall, right? So what we're seeing is if you're removing 18 inches or less of drywall, which is typically from the finished floor up to the receptacles, we are not requiring a permit for up to 2 feet of removal. What we are seeing is if you had water above that 2 feet, you probably had water in your receptacles. And what we need to ensure is that those receptacles are properly getting replaced, so that when the power has either been turned back on, that you're not causing a fire in your home. So it's not just about the drywall, it's what that's partnered with on the walls of your home.
Yeah, and I don't know who can answer this, but that is a question, because a friend of mine, when she flooded completely, we all went over there that next day, and the fans were plugged in, the humidifiers, everyone was using that electricity. Is that something that people should not do when they get back into their home? I don't know who that might be for. Maybe a contractor,
Can
maybe
someone else answer that?
Darren, can you answer that for me?
Well, I guess the political answer would be you probably want to have an electrician check everything out. But obviously, there's a need to dry out the structure. So, but the political answer is you could cause a fire.
Yeah. So to be careful when you get back into that home. People are so anxious. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you mentioned the comfort centers a little bit earlier. Can you talk about what's available to residents who have been displaced, their electricity's not back on at those comfort centers?
Absolutely. At DeSoto Park, we have restrooms, we have laundry facilities. If people would like to come wash some of damaged clothes or linens or things like that. We also have shower facilities. We have a cooling station if you don't have any AC right now and you would like to come and sit in the cool for a while. We also have food that's being provided and water. Often we also have ice that is being provided through FEMA to those locations. The same thing at Davis Island. We have the cooling station, the laundry, shower, and restroom facilities. And then south of Gandy, we do not currently have showers or laundry facilities, but we do have restrooms. We do have food distribution, ice. There are some tarps available if you happen to need a tarp to cover something. And then the pop-up permit locations are at each of those sites as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. Great questions, great answers. We're going to continue this. We're going to take a short break for about a minute. We're going to get some more questions, and we will be right back.
When the weather changes, you feel the impact. And you told us alerting you when the weather turns severe is the most important thing we can do. That's why 10 Tampa Bay is taking forecasting to the next level with Weather Impact Alert Days. So you'll know when to be alert, how the weather will impact your day, and how to keep your family safe. Keeping you informed, prepared, and connected with Weather Impact Alert Days only on 10 Tampa Bay.
Here are the stars of our show.
I am your host, Ryan Seacrest.
The Wheel You Love is back.
Yes! Let's have some fun.
This season will truly be unlike any other.
This has never happened before on Wheel of Fortune.
With bigger trips.
Yeah, baby.
Bigger prizes.
I'd love to take you backstage to the iHeartRadio Music Festival.
And bigger surprises.
There it is.
What a great show.
Let's do it again tomorrow.
Wheel, weeknights at 7 on 10 Tampa Bay.
Watching our live stream Ask the Experts special right now. We know so many of you are going through a lot right now in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, and so we are trying to get your questions answered today. You just saw the number that you can text right now to submit your question for our panel of experts. And now we're talking to 3 more experts.
Yes, right. We have Pete Fernandez here with Pete and Ron's Tree Service. A lot of people, have debris in their yard. So let's go back a little bit. If we could maybe go back to before the storm and talk about trees. How do we know when a tree might be a problem and it needs some attention?
Well, in our area, we have many large mature trees. And as trees age, they end up with some problems. They get older, decayed, We have limbs that are dead. We have splits in trees. So the best thing to do is bring in an arborist and have an inspection. And we've done a lot of these this year. People were very concerned about this hurricane season because of the projections, and now it's come true. And so you can get usually a free inspection of your tree and be sure that it's safe.
Yeah. Now, Pete, I was telling you in my neighborhood, there are tons of trees down. You showed me some pictures of some trees down that you saw here recently. So let's say a tree lost several limbs. Maybe it landed on the house or, on the lawn in the backyard. What should you do to assess a tree's damage, and what should you be looking for post-storm on that tree?
Well, after the storm, trees that are compromised are going to probably need to be removed.
Right. But how do you tell if it's compromised? Is there an easy way to spot that?
Well, obviously, if something's down,
Yeah.
you'll be able to see the cavities or the problems. But we've got some trees that are splitting. So you want to look for any cracks or splits in the tree.
Yeah.
Those limbs are subject to fall at any time. So we've had a number of trees that have just split, and we've had to go out and remove them. So if you see anything unusual with the tree, you just call out an arborist and have it spec'd.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have one more question for him. So when you're looking for a tree removal service, what are some good questions to ask before hiring them and bringing them out? And do you recommend you get a written estimate? How should you handle that as a homeowner?
Well, what I would do, and what we recommend, is be sure you have a reputable company. One that's been in business a number of years, licensed, insured. Insurance is a big deal. Workman's comp, liability, so forth. And the best would be to have a certified arborist for your inspections. They're trained and, definitely will do the job correctly.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We're going to move on back here to Michael from Cool Today. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Wonderful.
Thanks for being here. So let's talk about this. So if someone's home was flooded, but their air conditioning system still works, is it safe for them to run it?
I would definitely recommend getting it checked out as soon as possible. Rinse the thing down with fresh water because we had salt water all over it. We have a lot of failing motors, compressors, boards, things like that could definitely cause an issue. I know that we want to get the AC on, start dehumidifying the house, getting that problem taken care of, but you definitely get it checked out.
Yeah. If you know that your air ducts were compromised, maybe they were in a crawl space and they were filled with water, is it enough to just let them dry out, or do they need to be replaced?
Generally speaking, no, because if you let it dry out for a year, right? But they're going to start sweating when our temperatures drop, kind of like a soda can does. So you're going to lose efficiency, you're going to have growth inside the system. It's going to cause you all kinds of problems.
What are some things that homeowners should do before the storm to prevent a significant amount of damage to, let's say, their AC unit, for example? You showed me some pictures of some units that you were looking at, and the fan wasn't budging.
Right, so shut the unit off before the storm comes in, right? Kill the power to the unit will help a lot.
Okay.
Rinsing it down immediately after the storm.
Right.
If you're able to get the thing lifted up off the ground, right? So we have brackets and things that we can put up on the sides of the walls and move the unit up to higher ground, which will keep that salt water off the unit, off your copper lines, all these things.
Sure.
What are you noticing? What kind of calls are you getting since this storm hit? What seems to be the biggest problem?
The flooded out units, definitely, and followed closely by surges, right? Because when that power comes back on, it hits hard, shuts off, and it comes right back on again, and you're damaging compressors, motors, and things.
So when you evacuate, do you recommend turning everything off?
I would just shut it off.
Shut it all off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I know this is probably a case-by-case basis, but how do you know if that unit can be repaired or if it needs to be replaced?
Well, definitely get it checked out by a licensed contractor.
Okay. That part. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to Nelson from Truly Nolan because, there are a lot of bugs that came in that water, and you're actually getting a lot of phone calls since the storm. Kind of talk about what you have been dealing with since the storm hit.
So we're getting an influx of calls for rodents, roaches, ants, all those things that they're looking for right now, because all of the stuff that's displaced, all the spoiled garbage that's at the curbs, there's plenty of areas for them to forage in through the woods and the grass there and everything that's piled up at the side of the road. So they're using all those things. And with all that water that's what's out there with there's sewage leakage too as well, going through those things is where we're getting the calls is for things like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned water. There's a lot of standing water
Yes.
all over, and so that could bring a whole nother issue, correct? What are your
Right.
thoughts on that?
So the issue you're bringing with that is the lawn. So the salt water is sucking out that moisture, right? So there's stuff that you can do for those things. If your ornamentals and your shrubs, you're going to want to rinse those things off with fresh water the best you can to get that salt off of those things. The other thing we're running into is with the water, with the mold. He had talked about the mold earlier.
Right.
We do have things that we can help out with that as well for the mold with the fungus and assist with those things as well. So all those things with the water, that was our biggest thing is the water. So all that water that's going on out there.
Yeah.
And you've been getting a lot of calls. You actually have a number that people can call, a hurricane hotline for you guys.
We have a hotline, and we've utilized our areas where Fort Myers we were hit and impacted. A lot of our customers and our own branches and our employees were impacted as well over there. So we've got assistance from them. They can answer a slew of questions as far as like the mold goes, the services that we can help out our customers. We're just trying to get back out into the community to help the customers to get back into their homes safely. When they're dealing with all these things with the rats and all that, those other things, we're just trying to help out as much as we possibly can. So that number we have, and then all of our sites are going to have a barcode or something, a phone number that it can reach, and all of our face pages all throughout the Tampa market, all throughout the Sarasota, all those areas, they're going to be able to help you out.
Okay. What about gators? Some people got a surprise
Gators,
after Helene, right? We are in Florida.
Right.
That one's close to heart because I unfortunately my in-laws, my sister-in-law in her neighborhood in Feather Sound, they were flooded. They lost everything over there. They had to deal with the flooding, and then they get to the next day where the water's gone. Brother-in-law goes out to the garage. There's a gator just looking right. He's got his dog, his golden retriever, because they're hearing all these noises. He looks out the garage. There's a big 7.5-foot gator just sitting there looking at him. Stomps his foot. Gator takes off, and then he has to get the rescue to go out there, close the doors. They got 2 dogs and such, but it's like that's real. That's something real. So if you can, the reason was he couldn't close the garage door all the way, so it was able to slipped in at nighttime, and then you're dealing with that. So that's definitely something out there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You mentioned something. I just want to check in with all of you all to make sure everything was okay on your end. Was your home okay, Pete?
We had about a foot of water in the garage, but the home itself is okay. We had a beach home, not okay on Sunset Beach.
Yeah. How are things looking over there? Have you been able to make it to that property yet? I know there's so much sand everywhere.
Yeah, the sand is up 3 or 4 feet, and then it's piled up on top of that where they cleared the road. So we still don't have access, limited access.
Right.
And we're not able to mitigate anything yet.
Oh, wow. I know so many people over there, Treasure Island, Sunset Beach, Gulfport, dealing with so much. What about you, Michael? How was your
We made
place?
it through okay.
You made
We're
it
out
through
in the middle
okay.
of the state, so
we
got lucky with it.
You okay?
We were good, 4 feet from disaster, but we were able to survive that. So
Yes, yeah.
power,
Okay.
that's it.
Yep, that's power.
Abby, what about you?
We were good. We were good.
Good.
It's very hard to see, though, all of our citizens who have really been impacted by this storm, both directly in the city of Tampa and our neighboring communities. It's very challenging every day.
Yeah.
Okay, Jake, what about you?
So we live in Paso Grill. Thankfully we're in an elevated home. So we got about 4 feet of water in our garage and enclosure. But we're witnessing probably 80% of our neighborhood having damage.
Wow, and all that sand, right?
Yeah.
A lot of sand.
Yeah.
So you can still barely drive
Right.
a car in and out just due to the amount of sand there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Darren, what about you?
I live close to West Shore, and thankfully we were spared, but a block away west and south of us, not so much. And if you drive in either direction, pretty much every house has a pile out by the street, which is really sad.
Okay. And Jack, are you in Tampa?
No, I'm a FEMA reservist that was called up to come here.
Yeah.
One good thing about listening to everyone,
Yeah.
once FEMA gives you the money, your assistance, here's all the experts that you can go and They'll
Right.
help your house. Air conditioning, tree,
Right.
mold, they're all right here. So I suggest people that get their numbers down and
Absolutely.
there's good business here, but at the end of the day, we're here to help.
Yeah.
That's it. End of story.
For sure. I think this is a good example that we all live here, we work here, we play here, and so we experience this just like you all. Or we have community members or neighbors, family and friends who are dealing with the aftermath. So we want to get you the help that you need. That's why we're doing this right now. So the number, again, at the bottom of your screen right now, shoot us a text message. This is the perfect time to get all of those questions answered that you have. Our experts are here and eager to help. We're going to take a short break, look at those questions, and be right back.
Jeopardy is for everybody.
That's amazing. Oh, yeah.
With players just like you.
Paramedic, a retired teacher, psychiatrist.
I'm a little bit competitive.
That's the spirit.
Watch their victories.
We have a giant killer.
And heartbreaks.
Oh, no.
The next super champion could be anyone.
It's almost like a superhero origin story.
It could be you.
Oh, wow.
It's all happening on Jeopardy.
Jeopardy weeknights at 7:30 right here on 10 Tampa Bay.
When the weather changes, you feel the impact. And you told us alerting you when the weather turns severe is the most important thing we can do. That's why 10 Tampa Bay is taking forecasting to the next level with Weather Impact Alert Days. So you'll know when to be alert, how the weather will impact your day, and how to keep your family safe. Keeping you informed, prepared, and connected with Weather Impact Alert Days only on 10 Tampa Bay.
This is 10 Tampa Bay Storm Recovery. Ask the experts.
Okay, we are back with you. We have several experts here to answer your questions for the last couple of days. We've been asking you to send us your questions, and so we are going to continue the conversation. We're going to go back to FEMA right now, Jack with FEMA, because so many people have questions about FEMA. Before we started, you were telling us about something that Ron DeSantis and job and your employment, and can you apply for unemployment? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Governor DeSantis believes that if you had trouble with the hurricane and you lost your job, that you can apply for disaster assistance unemployment. Almost like COVID. If you remember during COVID, you lost your job because of COVID, they're setting up a similar type of a situation. So rest assured that if you lost your job because of the hurricane, the state is going to try to help, and this is unusual. DeSantis wants to do this. He cares, as you see. He's always been the number one out there and about. FEMA's there too. We're here to help.
Yeah, we do have a viewer question that came in, so thank you for sending that during this show. We have Aubrey from Madeira Beach. So this might be an insurance question or a FEMA question. You guys let us know who feels most comfortable answering. So it says, is support or money available for people who need a building torn down? How do you know if it needs to be torn down? Does anyone want to take that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so really what you want to start with is your claims adjuster. Let them look at it as it is, and then probably your local building official to also look and deem it. One thing that's out there is what's called the 50% rule. And so if you're in a slab on grade type home and your home is more than 50% damaged, you are not able to rebuild that, and you have to do a knockdown on there. Now, one thing that is within the flood insurance policy is that the flood policy does allow for an additional $30,000 of coverage towards demolition or towards building up, so that there is at least some additional relief on there from an insurance perspective. But that's basically it.
So she added something additional to that question. She says, right now the building is red tagged, unfit for habitation. Does that bring anything else into
That might go to
the
Abby
light?
here.
Abby, okay. I'll get this microphone for you. Here you go.
So clearly an authority has recognized that the building is uninhabitable. That means either it is structurally unsound, but I think, as Jake was saying, you need to continue to work with both your insurance and the Madeira Beach building official and see what your options are in terms of whether or not the building could experience rehabilitation, or whether or not structurally, due to what they've determined, that it needs to be demolished.
Okay. All right, we have another question from a viewer. I'm not sure who could take this, possibly Jack, but it says that are there expenses that qualify for write-offs or reimbursements due to a declared state of emergency? You might have covered that a little bit.
There is. I suggest you go to the website, disasterassistance.gov, and there'll be a whole laundry list of what is acceptable and what is not. That's a key right there. Also, I want people to understand you have to be patient now. In 4 days, FEMA has received 91,000 applications. 91,000. We've handed out close to $9 million. This is just Florida. So I get it. Tragedy, it's only, in your little circle. Just be a little patient. When you go to the recovery centers, go and ask the questions. We're going to set up different styles where if you have a question, you can get answered faster than just waiting to fill out an application.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, you have to file.
So a question for you from a viewer. If you get a grant from FEMA, are you expected to pay that back?
FEMA doesn't give out grants. That's damages. You're talking about maybe SBA, Small Business Administration. For instance, if you have a small business and you had damage, you can go get a loan from SBA for the first year, 0% interest. No percent interest, and then it's very low to pay off the loan. But FEMA doesn't give out grants. They give out monetary expenses for the damages. So it's very important to showcase those damages. Photos, paperwork, before, after.
Abby, we have a question for you in regards to the permits in the city of Tampa. Is there a cost related to getting those storm-related permits?
No, actually, the mayor has waived the permit fees. We really want our residents to be fixing their structures in a safe way and not worried about what it's going to cost them from a permit standpoint. So the permits for storm-related damage, the fees associated with those have been waived.
Do you know if other cities in our area are doing that?
We actually took lead from what Sarasota, Manatee had done in the storm last year. So I know it is done through an executive order, but I'm not aware right now if other municipalities are taking that same action.
Darren, I want to talk more about the cleanup because so many people are now, maybe their homes are gutted. Can you talk more about what can be saved, if anything, and if there's a proper way to clean it? I know some people are trying to save old pieces of furniture, wood furniture. Is that possible? How do they do that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I kind of mentioned it earlier, but anything porous is going to absorb that Category 3 water, the storm surge water, which is full of all kinds of bad stuff. And unfortunately, anything porous, it gets inside. Drywall's porous, a couch is porous, and you can't get it out of the inside. You can't clean the inside of these materials. So you can clean hard furniture if it hasn't swollen from the water. You can clean textiles, believe it or not. So clothing. We have a special. We do clothing restoration as well, and content restoration, but. There's a special detergent you can use that is a biocide essentially, and then anything that needs dry cleaning can actually be dry cleaned, and that's a very effective method to get rid of the contaminants as well.
Is there a type of solution? I mean, or is there something we can buy at the store? Is it just bleach? I know a lot of people are just using bleach. Is that enough?
I've heard vinegar for clothing.
Clothing, it's I don't really have the answer to that. We use a special. We buy a special detergent that I'm not sure is available to the public. So.
And are you booked up? I mean, people maybe this is so overwhelming. Let me just find someone to help me. How do we get in touch with you? Exactly.
Well, I just want to give a quick plug. So I mentioned earlier, my company's a national franchise or international franchise system. We have over 300 franchises nationwide in Canada. We've had 30 alone respond to the Tampa Bay area. 300 employees. We've had a good army here. So the answer to your question is yes, we can certainly take care of more, and we'll continue to take care of the community until everybody's
taken care of.
So if we're in the middle of our own project, we've already maybe cut the drywall, but now we're just like, we don't know what to do next. You can step in at any way,
Give us a
any
call.
time of the process.
Give us a call.
Okay.
We can do the cleaning. We can set up dehumidification. There's going to be obviously a lot of rebuilding going on, and that's another issue that we'll be facing. Just the amount of homes that need to be restored, and then just of course the manpower, materials, and to be able to handle that's going to be a challenge. But people need to be patient, and it's going to take a while. But we'll get it all put back together.
And you were saying earlier that you have a simple way to kind of give someone a cost right over the phone.
Yeah, we use a simple, as you can imagine. I think since Friday we've had over 600 calls, and we came up with a square footage price to demo, clean, and dry, and that's $10 a square foot. Which is kind of right in line with what flood insurance would pay for that type of services. So pretty easy. You measure the square footage, your home, the first floor livable area times 10, and it's pretty simple price. So
good option for people.
Abby, I want to talk to you again because a lot of people have started the process of removing the things in their home that were underwater at a certain point. So, or even things around the yard, right? Tree limbs, people pulling out furniture, clothing, all kinds of items. Can you talk about the city of Tampa? Have you guys started the process of removing those items? And I know they have to be organized. You can't just put everything out in one big pile. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, our solid waste team has been hard at work, and kudos to them. Larry Washington leading that group, just amazing what they have been able to do. And we're bringing in contracted service as well to support us. But they have already begun cleaning our hardest hit streets. As you mentioned, we do ask that the home debris is separated from the natural debris. We have suspended natural debris pickup in other areas of the city right now because we really are focusing on removing the storm debris, and we do that, and then it is taken to a debris site, and you can access that from our website. Our solid waste team does have an application that you can download and see what's going on, what services they're providing. But we have removed tons of debris already and continue to do that in order to get our community back together again.
Yeah, for sure. And I know it's different depending on the city, where you live, when they're going to be picking things up. Pete, we were talking earlier about the removal of the trees. Someone in Largo sent in a question. What would you say to them about how they can get that removed?
Well, obviously if it's a hazardous tree, they don't need to do it themselves. Most dangerous piece of equipment ever designed was a chainsaw. So if you're not a professional, don't attempt it. Bring in somebody, have the tree cut up, they can haul it off. If you can get the debris to the street yourself, get it to the street, pile it up separately, as they were saying, from the household debris. And then they'll have a contractor or the cities will remove it.
Okay. Thank you for that insight.
Okay, we have a new question from a viewer for Cool Today. Okay. And it says, let's see, do I replace it or dry it? I'm assuming they're talking about the ductwork.
If the ductwork's underground, underneath the house, and it does get full of water, you need to replace it, likely. When it comes to the unit, it's best for what's best for you, ultimately. If you have a homeowner's insurance claim and everything open and it's covering your AC as well, replacing it may be the best option so you don't have these saltwater problems later. That copper really does take a hard hit with the saltwater being submerged. It starts the corrosion process. Eventually, we're going to have leaks in the system. It's definitely going to kill your system off a lot sooner.
Okay. My producer was talking to me in our ear, and this is all happening in real time. I believe they were asking for advice on wet ducts, so I'm guessing they're under the home. What do you suggest? What is your advice, your recommendation?
Replacement's probably the best option because that biological growth is going to grow inside those ductwork. It's going to spread throughout the house. It's not good for the machine, not good for your, obviously you or your home either.
Okay.
Okay, and we had a question from Jerry in Tampa about their car is flooded, and they didn't know whether to file it under car insurance or flood insurance.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to be their auto insurance policy.
Okay, all right, good to know. A lot of flooded cars out there.
A lot of flooded cars. It's auto insurance carriers are currently inundated with claims. But the good news is, even though that's been in your garage, while maybe other items in your garage aren't covered, if you're in that elevated house, the car is still covered because it's on your auto policy.
Okay, good to know. Perfect.
Okay, so we spoke with you a little bit earlier about if you still have availability for people to call you and get you out. What about you, Peter? I know you guys are so very busy, but can people still call you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're responding to any emergencies, especially trees on homes or vehicles. We have one tree today that I'll be leaving to after this. That is on a car and a street. So yes, we're responding. Absolutely.
Do you anticipate, because I see we could be getting some rain over the weekend, maybe more calls because the soil is so saturated and maybe trees falling?
Yeah, that's a good point. What happens is the more saturated soil becomes, it's easier for the trees that are leaning to come over. So we've got to be aware of that. If you see your roots coming up, need to have that tree inspected immediately because it could be a danger.
Okay, and again, to reiterate what you said, stay away from do-it-yourself projects.
No, please, chainsaws, number one accident in the hospitals are chainsaw injuries during a storm.
Okay, everyone agrees. Everyone agrees. Okay, what about you? How are you guys doing? Are people, are you really busy?
We are running a lot of calls. Our guys are out pretty late. We do not stop until our calls are finished. Be patient, please. If you do give us a call, we may be running behind the original time frame just due to we don't know what we're walking into out there.
Sure.
So we want to make sure we're taking care of each customer properly.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let me walk over here to Truly Nolan. What about you all?
Yeah, we are getting out pretty quick. We got a call yesterday. Someone's trying to already close the walls up, and we were out there today to take care of it so they can take care of their issues out there. So, yeah, we're getting out there. We got a team all throughout Pinellas County, Tampa, Hillsborough. We're ready for this.
Okay, good to know.
Yep, so we have a viewer question asking more about mosquitoes. Obviously, there's so much standing water out there. I think you might have touched on this earlier, but what can people do? We need to get rid of that standing water, but where do we put it? Everything's flooded or wet?
Yeah, so when you dump, so what it is if you have standing water like in buckets or some of your flowers or pots that hold it, you want to dump that. See, that's going to go away. You just don't want it sitting in an area in a bucket or something like that. So anywhere that it's going to be holding the water, like a good amount of it, those are the things you want to get rid of and dump them, and that way it'll take care of the mosquitoes and kind of back it off.
Sure. And you guys have a service, right, to help get rid of those mosquitoes? It's too late?
It's not too late. We can definitely get out there and help out with that. We have a system that will take and get the mosquitoes into the areas where they need to go and then apply products out there that will help definitely with that.
Okay.
Yeah, just in general, what time of year is it good to kind of do a mosquito treatment, or can you do that any time of the year?
Nowadays, it's year round. Pretty much, you're dealing with mosquitoes most of the time. We just got through mosquitoes. They'll come around and also do the helicopters, but it all depends on what you're dealing with in your structure at your home. So mosquitoes are hanging out most of the time now, all year round.
Okay.
All right, so I have a question about insurance. So we had so many questions about insurance. I want to know what kind of calls you are getting. What are people asking you that they maybe don't understand that you might be able to clear up?
Yeah, I think it's really been like the tale of three claims, right? So does my homeowners cover this? I would say in our office, we've filed close to 1,900 flood claims, probably 10 homeowners claims. When you think about it from a Tampa Bay specific region, the storm was 160 miles away. And so then it's, we really got 50 to 60 miles an hour of sustained wind. So there's not really a lot of homeowners damage. This is almost all flood. You then have the elevated homes. And for a lot of people in elevated homes, there's kind of the coverage that we all want, but might not necessarily be there of, are my contents in the garage covered, or is my pool covered? And those are the really, pretty easy ones, but unfortunately no coverage. And then you have the slab on grade, lower elevation homes. And those are the, how do I document my claim? Does insurance pay for, my additional living expenses or anything like that? And I would say from a documentation, it's really, take as many pictures as you can. If you're waiting on your claims adjuster, start your Excel sheet of your home inventory. Put, what did you have? What do you think it was worth? And do you have like a link to an Amazon of something similar to be able to justify that claim amount? And then, unfortunately on flood claims, there's not that additional living expense coverage. So there's not coverage to go live somewhere else. And it's just not in the policy.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering how detailed those Excel spreadsheets need to be. I saw some on Facebook groups, and they can get pretty detailed. But what if someone's not that savvy with Excel or even the internet? Maybe there's an elderly couple out there, or just someone doesn't know. I mean, can you still do it the old-fashioned way with pen and paper and pictures?
You can do pen and paper and pictures. I would say if you can get it electronically and document it, it's going to make your claims adjuster's job easier, because then you can just email it to them, and so it's going to really speed that claim up. But the more documentation you have, the more pictures and the more valuations that you have on there, the smoother that claim process typically goes.
Got it. So the more information, the better.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay.
We had another question from a viewer about cars. We talked about all the cars that were flooded. Does anyone know why it's taking so long for some of those cars to be towed? Does FEMA or insurance, any idea from past experience?
That's mostly an insurance question, because FEMA's not involved in towing cars.
Right.
But I did want to say about with FEMA, we talk about electronic, we're all about internet electronic service, your banks. If you want to get a FEMA check faster, I suggest you give the FEMA personnel your bank account, your routing number. Well, I've had stories just this last 4 days that people have gotten a check in their bank account in 2 days.
Wow.
Whereas if you wait for a check, it's going to take 5 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So I know people are worried now, oh, FEMA has my banking information. What happens if somebody can get in there? FEMA has a very good cybersecurity. No one's going to break in to get your banking information.
Okay. Do you have an answer for the cars, why they're taking so long to be towed?
Yeah, I think a major issue is capacity, right? And so there's only so many tow trucks in the Tampa Bay area, as well as there's only so many rental cars. And so I think if you drive by a lot of rental car lots, they're totally empty right now.
Right.
And the last is some people still haven't gotten back to their homes, right? And so when you think about it, as crazy as this is, 7 days ago, we probably, none of us sitting here expected flooding like we got.
No.
And so when you think about it from that standpoint, we're still taking a lot of claims calls of people that are just now getting back today.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if we asked this earlier, Jack, but how long do people have to file a claim for this hurricane?
For Hurricane Helene, November 27th is the deadline.
Okay.
For Hurricane Debbie, it's October 9th.
Okay.
So that's next week. So 27 November for Hurricane Helene, and I've been told that may get extended.
Okay.
You got to remember, Hurricane Katrina, 2005, FEMA is still working in New Orleans 19 years later.
Yeah.
This is going to be a long marathon.
Right.
Just be patient.
Right. We had another viewer ask what assistance FEMA can provide for small businesses.
FEMA will direct you to the SBA, Small Business Administration, and they are proactive like no tomorrow. They will try to help, and they're there. That's one of the reasons why we have them, and they're willing to give out money right away. Again, it's not for free.
Yeah.
You got to pay it back.
Okay.
Okay. And also, we were talking earlier about if FEMA comes back with a certain amount for your losses, your home, if you don't agree with that, there is a way to appeal, correct?
Yes, I suggest you appeal.
Okay.
Think about life. Sometimes someone reads your piece of information, maybe they didn't read it the way you thought they read it. Appeal it. We have people understand that sometimes you don't get it on the first try, try again.
Right. And you have centers set up around this area, correct, where people can come in person. Some people prefer that.
Yes, we have in Largo at the Largo Library for Pinellas County.
Yeah.
We have at the Hillsborough Community College. We have a DRC there. It's in Brandon. That's I guess the smaller version of the HECC at the Regent. Then we have one in Lakewood Ranch. That's at the Lakewood Ranch Library. And then we have one in Sarasota at the Christian Church.
Okay.
In Brandon.
Okay.
So there's places.
Okay.
And again, I believe life is always good to meet the person you're handing the application in.
Yes, right, for sure. And we had another insurance question regarding pools, and I think you spoke on this a little bit earlier. But if you can reiterate, if pool was flooded or damaged, is that covered?
Yeah. So two things. One, I want to jump in on Jack. So also, if you want to meet with your insurance carrier, there's an insurance village starting tomorrow in Clearwater through Sunday, and they actually have the carriers there, and so you can go there with your policy number, and they can look at your claim, and you can actually talk to a claims adjuster. So for anybody that needs help there, that is starting tomorrow. From a pool standpoint, yes, pools are not typically covered on a flood insurance policy. So the cleanup, the getting that muck water out of there, the pool pumps, anything along those lines, unfortunately there's not coverage for that in the policy.
Right, I know. I think that's a big disappointment for a lot of people. This is Florida, after all. A lot of people have those pools. So that's just and I will tell you, as someone who has a pool, it's hard to get someone to come out and look at it. So it's going to be there for a while. Darren, do you have any advice for pools? Do you guys do pools? That's not really one thing you don't do. I think
Well, in Spanish, we forgot our Spanish viewers.
Oh, yes, yeah, for sure.
Spanish, you can go to listo, listo.gov or ready.gov. Those are two places for Spanish speakers who are not good with English, and you'll get all the information there.
Okay, great. While we have the microphone in front of you, anything else that comes to mind that you would love for people to know before they reach out to you?
Just remember, FEMA's there, and yes, there are some places FEMA hasn't been. We're trying our best. We're getting more people coming in. As you know, North Carolina really got hit very bad. Asheville, if anyone's ever been to Asheville, you know those mountains, they don't take a whole lot of water, and boom, they come down. So be patient. FEMA's there. I was just in Anna Maria Island, and we're working each islands. Be patient, but file.
Yeah, well, I know you're with FEMA. You've been through this before. What kind of hope can you give to people who may be watching? That you said to be patient, but things can get back to some sense of normalcy soon, right?
I'm all about hope. I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel Army. I was in Afghanistan, Iraq. I always told the Afghans and the Iraqis, hope. Hope is powerful. I get it. You lost, damage your life. You have maybe no money, no food. FEMA's going to try to be there to help you. Remember, and then you have your community, the churches, and everyone is coming together. That's what we do. That's what America is. There is a spirit. We will, as they say, Tampa strong.
Yes, for sure. Tampa Bay strong. Okay, I'd love to go around and just get any last words and advice, especially since we're still in hurricane season, right? Looking ahead to next storm, next major rain event, any advice? Pete, let's start with you.
Well, as we spoke previous, if you have questions about your trees, please call out a company that can inspect it for you. Don't wait till the storm, because we can't do anything. So be wary, walk around your yard, take a look, and if you have questions, call.
Okay. What about you, Michael?
Getting your unit prepared the best you can. Obviously, shutting the power down. Getting surge protection for your units is huge. The surge protector, of course, if you buy it, you have to buy another one when it breaks, but ultimately it's going to help protect your unit. Any little thing you can do to make your life easier later.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, walking over to Truly Nolan. Any tips, advice?
Just inspect your home. Make sure you're looking at things like that. Someone said earlier, do a video prior to this happens. Take pictures prior to whenever these things are going to happen, and just try to prep your home the best you can so we can save some of this disaster, for sure.
Yeah, and what about you with insurance? I think so many people were kind of caught off guard. I don't think they even realized exactly what policies they had and what they covered. So maybe just kind of brush up on that before the next storm.
And I think a big one is email it to yourself before the storm, right? A lot of people have their documents at their house and they evacuated, and now they don't have them anymore. So as much as you can just send it to your Gmail account so that you can pull it up from anywhere, that's the best thing that you can do.
Great advice.
Abby, what about you?
I was going to touch on what Jake just did. I know many of our residents prepare emergency boxes to take with them with their policies or with other important documents. I would say definitely be prepared with that. And the other thing I'd like to touch on is when, you hear that evacuation order, it's really important to evacuate. I think we all experienced that during this storm and saw things that none of us ever expected. I have a friend who tried to get his parents and the water had already come up, and I think we just need to heed that. I understand shelters are not the best or trying to find a friend, but please be ready and have your household belongings ready to go in case you do need to get out of the way, because the water does rise quickly in these instances, and it's very powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And what about when it comes to FEMA? Just go to that website.
I suggest you go to the website, go to the DRC. But the website is disasterassistance.gov. And the 800 number is 621 FEMA. 800-621-3362.
Perfect.
Okay. And last words from you.
One thing I should have mentioned earlier, we have a square footage price, and it is starting at that number. There are certain building materials that are more difficult to remove, glue down wood flooring and plaster, et cetera. So one clarifying point there, but I think at this point it's important to if you haven't removed the wet building materials and contents from your home, you need to. It's time. Yeah. So
get them out.
Definitely get them out.
Yeah. Time is ticking.
Yeah, if you can't get a company to come out, call us or do it yourself.
Yeah.
All right, Darren, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all for joining us.
Yes.
We said this a little bit earlier. We know this is an incredibly busy time for all of you, and many of you have been impacted by Hurricane Helene. So we appreciate your expertise, your time, your patience today, and thank you all for watching. We really hope you got some good takeaways from this special.
Yes, and take care of each other, definitely. Thank you.